Big day today for Nillion with the announcement of the enterprise cluster where leading institutions will run nodes on Nillion's PadNet. I want to start right there. I have with me the co-founder and chief scientist, Miguel de Vega, to get the latest insights on that new announcement and a lot more around privacy on why you chose to build Cosmos SDK in the first place to build Nillion on. But yeah, maybe we can start with the announcement, and yeah, maybe you can just share your views and also in that context a bit more about yourself and your kind of story.
Sure, thank you, Michael. Yeah, let's start with the announcement. It's really exciting, as you said, because we launched what we call the enterprise cluster, which is a major step forward in making privacy-preserving compute viable, not just for crypto native builders, but also for large-scale enterprises as well. So this cluster includes, some of the most established players across cloud, telecom, and finance. You mentioned them, like Alibaba, Saudi Telecom, Vodafone, Deutsche Telekom. And the thing is that these are not just passive partners. They're actually running PetNet nodes, and we'll see what that means. But they're actually running the network, the infrastructure that helps power blind computation and secure data storage within the network.
Nice. And you yourself, you have a very strong background in tech, right? I think you have you studied in Brussels and also in Madrid. You did your master's in, I think, also mathematics, right? And then you
Yes.
went on to work at Siemens and some other tech companies. So can you maybe share a little bit more on your kind of backstory and why privacy matters to you? Because I think for what you guys are building, privacy is like the main thing, right? So why does privacy specifically matter to you in that context?
So yeah, sure. So I think I'm at the intersection between maths and engineering because I have a master's degree in telecom engineering, but also a PhD in maths. So for example, in my PhD, I was working here in Brussels, but also working with Siemens in Germany, kind of designing the back end of the internet, like the backbone links, doing the mathematics that enable companies to do that. And I came up with like 27 patents, some of which are being used today still. But I've also worked beyond telco companies, like smaller companies working with AI mostly and cryptography as well, which you see the pattern. I like applying maths to technology. So in 2013, I started working with zero knowledge proofs, which is one type of cryptography, but then I expanded over to other types. In 2017, I met Andrew Masanto, co-founder of Hedera and Reserve. We were playing with the idea of applying privacy enhancing technologies to crypto, to Web3. And in 2021, we kind of made it happen. We got sat together with other co-founders and thought that these technologies were actually mature enough to be taken to production and to give back to crypto, to Web3, something that we thought is super important and that's missing, which is privacy. In a sense, Web2 has a broken model of privacy, but still somehow has some privacy. But in Web3, kind of in blockchains, everything is public. We kind of lost that element. And we think that that's limiting Web3 in its ability to grow. So that's kind of one of the reasons, the more commercial one, why I think privacy is important. But also on the more kind of maybe philosophical side, I think privacy is one of those things that doesn't seem to be like a big deal until it's gone, until you lose it. It's kind of like freedom, right? So you don't always notice it when you have it, but it does empower us and feeds the very essence of what it means to be human. And in the physical world, privacy is really easy. Like you build walls, you close doors, you pull curtains, and it's obvious when you're protecting your privacy. But in the digital world, it's way trickier because there are no walls. You can see it's just about firewalls and encryption and fancy cryptography stuff that is really invisible. And because we can't see those risks, maybe we often underestimate them. And I think now that with AI, the stakes are way much higher because it's not just about someone peeking into your digital life. AI will learn everything about you, right? It will learn your habits, your thoughts, your fears, who you are at your core. So a world with AI but without privacy is really scary because it wouldn't be just someone peeking into your home, like seeing your stuff and what you're up to. It would be more like someone peering into your mind, your thoughts, your fears, your dreams. So that's the deepest layer of privacy that I think we can't afford to lose and give it to some random AI company. They would have way too much power over us. So I think it's one of the key kind of deciding points in our society right now. Do we go full in AI without privacy, or do we build privacy into AI? And obviously, I do believe that the latter is the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also like the core ethos of crypto in the first place and why Bitcoin exists in the first place, right? Is to separate money from state, but to also add a layer of privacy. And as you mentioned, I think over the past year specifically, like I think a lot of people in crypto nowadays, they probably don't really care as much because they just want to make money on meme coins or whatever. And that's fine. I think like that's just what it is. But as you also mentioned, like once you lose it, then you're like, damn, like,
Yeah.
I'm wrecked,
Yes.
Um,
And it's irreversible, right? You cannot take it back. Once you've given away your data, you cannot say, hey, give it back to me. It's gone. You've lost
yeah.
control.
Yeah. And I think my question is also like the evolution of privacy in crypto. Like, obviously, we have Monero that's been around forever and is still there. But then there were also like other kind of attempts and like even platforms to build confidential kind of smart contract layers and those kind of things, but have never really taken off. And my question is, how is Nillion positioned maybe differently? Because I think so far you have made a lot of waves to kind of make the AI, like the privacy and with AI and other elements, to make it worthy to kind of put on the map again, right? Because I think again, like a lot of people don't really care about it.
Yeah.
How does Nillion plan to make privacy really, really accessible to the people that they probably don't even have to like care too much about it, but it will just be like a no-brainer to kind of ignore or not make use of that?
Yeah, I think it has to do with the narrative, right? The way you explain or you tell the story, and also the type of privacy. The first attempts, I would say, they are related to transaction privacy. So let's try to make everything around a transaction private: the amount, the sender, the recipient. And as you said, it had certain success, but not really nothing extraordinary. I would say the reason is because it is, to a certain extent, it's good to have that, publicly verifiable information on a blockchain, so that it becomes so much easier to prevent things like, I don't know, double spending, or like to make the whole thing fair and amenable to audits and by people. So hiding information in that context has like a flavor also of kind of illegal stuff like money tumblers and stuff like that. What we are working with or towards is protecting a different type of information, which is actually the rest of the world in terms of information. So you have transactions on the one hand, but on the other hand, you have the rest of data, which is everything from your medical records, your financials, your all the things that you can possibly imagine that you have in Web 2, but is not present in Web 3. And the reason is because there's no way to protect it. So we are kind of positioning it this way. We went from a first phase where we had the internet of information, which is like a place where you can share and access data freely in the world, right? It's through HTML documents and stuff like that. So that is kind of Web 2. Then came along the internet of value, which is what crypto brought in, so that now people can exchange money and ownership directly. So you're not just exchanging documents, but also value. And what we're working towards is the internet for intelligence. It's the new phase, I think, is where web is going next. Is one phase where intelligence becomes the most valuable distributed resource. So instead of moving documents and tokens, you're also moving thoughts. And obviously this connects to AI. But the problem here is that intelligence is really powerful, but it's also very sensitive. So the internet we use today wasn't really built to handle this type of information securely and privately, and that's where Nillion comes in. So we are building the infrastructure layer for this next evolution, an internet where intelligence can be computed on, combined, and activated without being exposed. And it enables things like running AI models or doing analytics across silos. We think it really brings the best of Web3, which is the mathematical guarantees that things are what they say on the tin, what it says on the tin, that things are fair and verifiable, but combined with this new element, which is privacy, security. So you get the best combination of the two of them, and we believe that that is the required infrastructure to run this new internet for intelligence.
I think when you speak or kind of explain this to a crypto person, I think there's this natural kind of reception to it. There's like, yeah, that kind of makes sense to me. But also in light with this enterprise cluster announcement, like when you talk to big corporations like Vodafone or Deutsche Telekom, like how do you explain it to them? And like what is their interest or what's their intuitive reaction when you talk about privacy, blockchain, crypto, right? Which are all kind of relatively new and for many like traditional companies more abstract concepts.
Yeah, you have to change the angle and the way you phrase things because, as you've mentioned, they're kind of sometimes they're not, crypto friendly. Let's put it that way. So, but they do care about this in another way. For example, they do care about privacy from the angle of legal compliance and legal burden. So, if you can give them a solution that prevents them from having to store highly sensitive personal data, you're removing a lot of legal burden from them and requirements around compliance and also risks around this. So that is number one. And then if you tell them that the price is not really much higher than the standard solution, then it's a no-brainer for them as well. So the angle is a little bit different. You're not obviously talking about decentralization that much or removing the power from centralized entities, but you're more talking about protecting their users because most centralized entities they're not bad actors. Like they wanna do a good job, but sometimes they are subject to insider threats as well. Like an employee, even if the organization as a whole is a good actor, maybe an employee has access to some information and sells it behind the enterprise's back. So adding that additional security protects them against hacks, external hacks, insider threats, and as I said, provides them with a much better tooling to comply with existing regulations.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. And I think when I first learned about Nillion, there was always this kind of narrative around the blind computer. Can you maybe break that down, like what it exactly means, and also how this privacy layer on Nillion is actually working or architectured?
Yeah, so the blind computer is this concept we came up with to explain what we're doing because it's actually hard. If we go down in the cryptography path, it's like very crazy. So the marketing geniuses in our company came up with this concept, and just today, Forbes, used this term in an article they published about us and the enterprise cluster. So it's really exciting to see it's catching on. So the blind computer is a new form of decentralized infrastructure. You can think of it as not a blockchain, but something that sits along blockchains. And it enables blockchains to do what they're not good at, which is compute in an affordable and scalable way and store on private information. I'm also including the AI processes. So they both combine really well. And the nodes in this network, they don't see the data they store or compute on. And that's why we call them a blind computer, because they're blind. And so what we're really aiming towards is making this that simple for developers. Before, like, it was really hard. If you were a developer, you had to know a lot actually about cryptography and, multi-party computation, FHE, TE, ZKP, and how to combine them. It was very, very difficult. And they were like in silos. They were siloed technologies. So we made this that simple. The Nillion blind computer looks and feels as if you were using a standard database and a computer with a traditional GPU and CPU. but under the hood, everything is private and the data remains encrypted end to end. So to make things even more user-friendly, we built SDKs to offer like higher level functionality built on top of the blind computer, like LLM inference or private retrieval augmented generation. So in a nutshell, Nillion makes privacy really easy to use, but also performant and affordable. And we want to really remove the need for developers to make a conscious decision as to whether they want to build with privacy or not, because essentially it's like almost for free. Like it has no impact in performance, cost, and is really easy to use.
So if I'm a developer listening to you right now and like I'm hooked on that privacy narrative and I want to start building, what would be my baseline kind of qualifications I need to bring, and what's the onboarding process for let's say like an individual developer is just listening to this now?
Yeah. So the beautiful thing is that you don't have to be a cryptographer. You don't have to be an expert in privacy enhancing technologies, nor even maybe understand what they are. All you need to be is a developer, like understand front end, back end flows. Back end would be the most important because it's where you will typically interface with our technology, with our infrastructure. And the way to go is probably to go to our website and check our docs. And there you will see that we have two like core modules, which is one for storage, the other one for compute. You can work with them if you want, but built on top of them, as I said, we have SDKs, which make things way easier. So for example, the storage model or module has a wrapper that is like, it's called Secure Vault, that enables you to really easily, store and retrieve information, and it's a decentralized database. So everything is done for you and it's distributed across multiple nodes. You may choose the enterprise nodes if you want. And the same for compute. You can hit the SDK for inference, you can hit the SDK for RAG. So the requirements are really minor, which is the beauty of this.
Nice. Yeah, obviously I'm a Cosmos guy. I've been covering Cosmos here since around 4 years now. Nillion is also built on the Cosmos SDK. Can you maybe break down exactly why you chose to build on Cosmos, what the benefits are, and also, yeah, just overall your kind of experience with a Cosmos stack?
Yeah. So the architecture of Nillion has two main components. One is the nodes running all these privacy enhancing technologies, the ones we've talked about. But there's another component, which is what we call the Nil chain, which is a blockchain. And we use that blockchain for coordination purposes. So to coordinate the different, infrastructure elements, to align incentives, to run the token. And that's the one we chose Cosmos SDK, for. And the reason, I think it boils down to probably three things. The first one is interoperability. Cosmos has this protocol called IBC, inter-blockchain communication, that makes it super easy for different chains to talk to each other. And that's a big deal for us because our whole thing is privacy-preserving computation that can plug into multiple ecosystems. So with IBC, we're not locked into one chain. We actually can interact across ecosystems while keeping speed and sovereignty. So that was a major reason in our choice for Cosmos SDK. The other one is flexibility. Like with Cosmos, we felt that decisions were not being made for us. The Cosmos SDK lets you customize your own modules, build the exact logic that you need, and optimize performance for what Nillion does best, which is blind computation. So it's not just a plug and play thing that is already configured. You can also actually get to fine tune it. And that was really important for us because we knew from the beginning that we wouldn't be another blockchain project that we can just reuse off-the-shelf components. We would have to really make a lot of different things, and having that flexibility offered by Cosmos was an important one. And the third one, maybe it's even more important because it has to do with the vision. Cosmos is all about a decentralized internet of blockchains. And this perfectly aligns with what we're building, which is a network that coordinates secure private computations across the web. So we're not just tapping into Cosmos tech. We feel and hope that we're actually contributing towards achieving the same future. So overall, we're really happy with the experience, the flexibility and both the kind of high-level vision alignment that we have with Cosmos SDK and Cosmos in general.
Nice. Yeah, I think cosmonauts are pleased to hear that. Can you also maybe share your views? You mentioned IBC is a big one for you in interoperability. And now with the recent launch of IBC Eureka, which is basically IBC v2 that also makes it compatible to Ethereum in the first step, and then other EVM chains in the midterm, and even chains like Solana and like even non-EVM chains move as well, I think is kind of on the roadmap. Is Nillion compatible with IBC Eureka already? And what's the roadmap there?
Yeah, I think we can describe Nillion as one of the early adopters of IBC Eureka. We're definitely building towards, incorporating that as a key component, because as you said, it unlocks way more of what we want, which is this ability to interoperate with other blockchains. So that's kind of core for the blind compute network that is meant to plug into multiple ecosystems, not just one. And we're beginning with Ethereum. That's amazing. That's obviously one of the is the largest ecosystem. But also what you said, like eventually with other non-Cosmos chains, like in the future, like Solana, that it is a key component. And so the logic is really simple. Like we want to make privacy-preserving compute available wherever it's needed. IBC Eureka gives us a scalable, reliable bridge to do exactly that without needing to reinvent the wheel or to rely on a bridge we would make ourselves that we would have to audit it. There would be like issues around security. Like it is like the perfect interoperability component that we want to use. So it's both a win for interoperability and a win for developers who want to tap into Nillion's capabilities from other chains as well.
Are there any other Cosmos projects that you're currently collaborating with, or are there any kind of type of projects maybe that you say like those are projects we're targeting specifically to integrate or connect with?
Not any specifics, but we are interested in those projects where privacy might be important or relevant, and that applies obviously to Cosmos because it's the ecosystem we're in, but also others like Ethereum and Solana. Yeah, any project that is aiming to work with information that goes beyond transactions typically, because as we said before, making transactions privacy is maybe not that interesting, but any other type of information, and they want to use it in a decentralized way. So they don't want to be storing it themselves and make themselves like a centralized element in their solution, and they want to keep privacy, and they want to create or use this credibly neutral layer, which is Nillion's storage layer, and possibly even give power or control back to the users, make them sovereign. That would be like the type of project we would be really interested to collaborate with.
Okay, and then you're also building out your own native ecosystem, right, of applications and use cases on Nillion and on Nilchain. Can you maybe kind of give an overview on the state of the ecosystem right now? Obviously, it's still early stages. I think the chain only launched a few months ago, right? It's not been
in March.
March, yeah. So yeah, 3 months in. But yeah, maybe give an overview on kind of the state of the ecosystem and what type of developers you're also trying to kind of target and onboard right now.
Sure. That's actually one of my favorite subjects because I'm chief scientific officer, like the title, but recently I've been also working with very close with solutions, working with builders with those projects who want to build on top of us. And it's something that I find personally very exciting because you get to work with a lot of talent and see what's cooking, right? What they're building and working on. So the ecosystem is growing a lot. Like we've only launched, like you said, like a few months ago, but we've got already like over 50 projects building on Nillion, spanning areas like private machine learning, health data platforms, DeSci, finance, and beyond. And what really ties them all together is, I think, the shared belief that your data should benefit you and not be exploited by someone else. They're very different, like from one another. Some of them are like solo builders. Some others are venture-backed startups. Some are like Web2 type of projects, which are interested in the nice properties of Web3, like the decentralization aspect of it. Some others are Web3 native projects who want to expand what they can do with Web3. So it's very hard to kind of, define what is the typical project because there's so much variety. And so whether it's enabling privacy-preserving AI or letting patients control their health data or helping researchers collaborate without giving up sensitive information, the common thread maybe across all of these projects is that they want to do computation and storage without compromise and privacy without trade-offs.
Yeah, and as a Cosmos community member and contributor, I'm very proud that you guys are part of the ecosystem and building in it, and also, yeah, I guess upstreaming some of or a lot of the work that you're doing also in joining IBC economy, because I think in the end of the day, that's exactly what you mentioned, right? That's exactly the vision of Cosmos, is that we have app-specific use cases that choose their own environment, and it's optimized for one niche or vertical or application, but it's all kind of interconnected through IBC. So I think sovereignty, interoperability, that is really the key of Cosmos. And then for you guys merging AI and privacy, that's I think an amazing combination. But yeah, I think to also not make this too long, there will probably be a part two sometime in the future, maybe in Spanish, like we were talking earlier, even in German, who knows?
Maybe in German, yeah.
But what are some of the kind of most exciting things that are cooking right now? Yeah, besides obviously the enterprise cluster was just announced. You mentioned a lot of dApps that are in development, but yeah, what are some of the highlights for you?
Yeah, I can't say much on this, but I can definitely say that there are a lot of exciting things in the pipeline. And maybe touch on the topics like AI is obviously a major one. Health is another one. DeSci and finance. Those are, I think, major topics. And the next batch of developers, like which I wasn't counting on that 50 number, is amazing. Like I think it's gonna surprise people because these guys are like building the next level thing type of thing. So I'm really excited to be working with them and handholding them and helping them become like members of our ecosystem. So I can say stay close and watch the magic unfold because there's a lot of like interesting exciting things coming in.
I'm just curious on health that you mentioned a couple of times. Can you maybe like explain a bit more, like how precisely that would fit?
Yeah, so think, for example, like DNA information, which is like one of the most sensitive types of information, because if it gets leaks your DNA, you cannot change it, right? And yet there's a lot of information that you can extract from it, like your proclivity to suffering certain, diseases and things like that. So it wasn't possible until now to put this data on decentralized infrastructure with all the guarantees. But now add that maybe to all the wearables that people are wearing, capturing your sleep patterns and heartbeat information, which is like another bucket in the health sector, which is also interested in it of itself because you can get a lot of insights if you're able to run AI on that information. But now bring in composability, right? The ability for a user that through one builder has captured DNA information, through another builder is capturing wearable information, and that user is actually able to put the two data sets together and monetize them for third parties and or give it away, for insights for research institutions and stuff like that, in exchange for some incentives. So it is amazing the things you can unlock when you're able to make users sovereign of the information they have, but also bring in this composability property that breaks the silos that currently exist in health, in the health sector in particular, and prevents like research institutions fighting cancer to make progress because all that information is like siloed in different hospitals. So those are just is a flavor of the things that are happening on the health sector within Nillion.
It's refreshing to hear like actual real world use cases. I think that's also something we kind of urgently need in crypto and Web3, besides like trading meme coins and stuff. But yeah, Miguel, muchas gracias for your time and for all the insights. I think this has been super interesting, and we'll definitely keep covering Nillion over the next months and hopefully many years to come. So yeah, thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me.